I'm actually a Californian. Many people don't know this. So I'm really happy to be back. I was actually born in Mexico City, and I was raised in Southern California. And 15, 16, 17 years ago, I moved to the East Coast 3 months prior to 9/11. And 9/11 was my introduction to Islam. So thanks to 9/11, I am a Muslim today, alhamdulillah. Not for the episode, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's not thanks to that, but so anyways, alhamdulillah, I have been able to travel extensively, and I've been blessed to be invited to the last trip that Helping Hand did in Mexico, when I received the call, of course, being Mexican, but not only that, I think it's very important to acknowledge that our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, says in a hadith that Aisha came to him and asked him, who do we help? And he said, your closest neighbor. So Mexico being our closest neighbor, it's our obligation to help. And so while we were there, I'm going to take you on a journey. So hold on tight, because it was pretty rough getting there. So we left actually on September 19th, when the 7.1 hit. We were actually in the air when the 7.1 hit. We were actually going to aid the 8.1 that happened in Oaxaca, Mexico, a few days before. This one here. Now, in 1985, the largest earthquake in Mexico hit on the same day. So that same day, we were in the air. Brother Saad from Houston and myself, we were in the air, and so we got rerouted and we went to Monterrey. I honestly didn't know how major or what the disaster was, and so it wasn't until we landed in the airport that I actually started panicking myself, because it was the first time that I ever left my son behind. He always travels with me. So it was the first time that I didn't take him. And so as soon as we landed, I started receiving all these texts telling me to come home. Yet, as a servant of Allah, we know we have a responsibility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses us. And we're replaceable. So if we don't do the work, somebody else will get the work done. Can everybody agree to that? Yes. Absolutely. So, the first place that we went was Oaxaca. We landed in Oaxaca, and after we landed in Oaxaca, we packed this truck here, and we went to the mountains of Oaxaca. Like Imam Taha said, we went to remote areas. This place here took us, it was supposed to take us 9 hours to get there. It took us 12 hours to get there. We went through rivers, we went through these mountains that were this small, and we didn't know if we were going to make it or not, because half of the road was cracked, right? And our journey continued, and this is here, we're in Oaxaca, so we land, this is Oaxaca City. That's Brother Saad, that works for Helping Hand in Houston. In the middle, we have Brother Yahya. He's the Imam in Chiapas. He's an indigenous Muslim, a Mayan indigenous Muslim. So alhamdulillah, I personally been working, and Helping Hand has been working with Brother Yahya's community. They're from the indigenous tribe, and they speak Tzotzil. So they don't speak Spanish. They speak actually a dialect. But mashallah, they recite Quran in Arabic. When I called him, I said, you know, Brother Yahya, I need you because you are from the people. So I really appreciate that Helping Hand actually reached out to me, because the Prophet ﷺ tells us that we need to give dawah, or we need to help our people. And so it makes it so much easier when somebody speaks the language, right? There's that barrier just crossed through. So I thought it was very important. When I got the call, I started building my team. And so I called him immediately, and within hours, he was actually in Oaxaca. Right next to him is Brother Saul. Brother Saul's only been Muslim 1 year in Mexico City. And mashallah, he has done amazing work in Mexico City's community. He actually, this year, for the first time, he did the slaughtering. So he was very excited, so he got trained. And now he's the one that's going to be doing the Qurbani for Helping Hand and so on and so forth. Here is actually the team that went on that 12-hour trip. So we have some brothers. The ones in the yellow are the brothers that I brought along. And then we have Sister Noor here in the yellow hijab. Mashallah, Sister Noor, she actually orchestrated the entire trip in Oaxaca. And it was thanks to her and a couple of the engineers that are next to her that we were able to actually go there safely. We had security all the way through, because remember, we had over 500 meals, and so it's a very poor area, so a lot of people either get kidnapped or robbed. And so Sister Noor, actually, not only is she a new Muslim, mashallah, and she does awesome dawah and she does great work, but her father works for the government, so he was able to help us. And her father was right with the program, even though he's not Muslim. Alhamdulillah. So when we get to Oaxaca, this is what we see. Most of the houses are actually not even a material, concrete material. They're all built out of clay. So this is the first house, and it was very impressive. I mean, very impressive when you get there, and this is all you see. And this was the first woman that we met. She's indigenous. She spoke very, very little Spanish. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Helping Hand video, and I think Sheikh Omar Suleiman shared it when I was hugging her, because we couldn't really speak to each other. We didn't speak the same language, but our hearts spoke to each other. And I felt her pain, and I just embraced her. She lost everything. She's a single mom of one. And so when we did the distributions, I also got the mic, and this gentleman here came to me, and he said, you know, I've seen Muslims on movies, I've seen Muslims in soap operas, I've seen Muslims in the newspaper, but never in a million years did I think I would see Muslims in my land. So subhanAllah, he actually got the mic and he started telling the people in his language who we were. So mashallah, this was like dawah in action, you know, it just happened very beautifully, mashallah. And he was in tears, believe it or not. He was just so emotional to see us there, and he kept showing us off and telling the women that they should actually cover, and that we look really good, like with the hijab, that Virgin Mary wore the hijab. And so mashallah, he was advocating the whole hijab, not being Muslim. And so this picture actually went crazy on social media. And this story here, subhanAllah, and I'm going to keep it together. Okay. So this lady, towards the end, everybody started coming with avocados. This is coffee, right here. Whatever they had, this man came with papaya. Half of it was no good. And he said, you know, if you cut it in half, you could eat the other half and throw the other half away. So whatever they had, they were ready to give it to us. So this indigenous woman comes to me, and she has, I don't know, 5, 6 coins in her hand. And she says to me, you know, you travel from very, very far away. I just know it. He's like, this is all I have, and I've been saving. And it's for you. And so my heart broke, and I said, no, I can't take that. I would rather get a kiss from you. And so she started bawling, and instead I gave her a kiss. And Brother Saul, he actually took the picture. This was not planned. It was just very spontaneous. And subhanAllah, she started crying and hugging me and thanking me, and she felt really bad that she wasn't able to give us anything, but I told her that she gave me more than she ever knew, and it was really a life-changing experience for me. Now here, this little girl, she's in the flyer for Helping Hand for this event. This is also another story. She's petrified because her mother in the back, her name is Aisha. SubhanAllah, okay? And her name's Aisha, and her mother comes to me, and she says, you have to go with her. She tells the little girl, yeah, you have to, Aisha, she tells her, you have to go with them, this is your people. And the little girl's like, what do you mean? And so I hugged her, and so I explained, I started speaking to the mom. I said, so do you know Aisha is a Muslim name? And she says, I do. And so she started telling me, you know, so I started telling her the story of Aisha and who Aisha was, and she asked her if she knew anything about it. And so she was very delighted, but the little girl was scared because her mom was giving her to me, but mashallah. But mashallah, it's amazing. And so when her mom told her that her name was Muslim, she actually wanted to wear a headscarf as well. So subhanAllah, the fitra is there, right? It's just a matter of us watering for it to blossom. And so here you see all the women, they brought us bananas. I mean, they were so grateful. And what we did in this town, we actually, we distributed packages, food packages. And let me tell you something, we visited 5 states in Mexico. Out of the 5 states, this state here in Oaxaca with indigenous women were the most organized, civilized, respectful people I have ever met. We were in Mexico City and people were literally throwing themselves at us, right? We were like scared, we wanted to shut down. But here they had a list and they were called by name. SubhanAllah, it's like Islam is like right there. And mashallah, the mayor, because they have a small mayor, that's the office of the white, he was there and we befriend him, and he's the one that made it possible for us to reach there safe and sound. And again, he gave a very beautiful speech in their language, saying who we were and what we were coming for. And again, dawah in action. And so here are more indigenous women that came to me and actually started asking me about Islam and what Islam was. They had never met a Muslim. So Helping Hand, reaching these remote areas like this is where your dollars are going. Not only are you helping monetarily, but you're also giving dawah by us visiting these areas. And so here, after we left Oaxaca, now as we were leaving Oaxaca, 6.4 earthquake happens in the airport as we were waiting for our plane. So once we left and we got cleared, we left to Mexico City, so the journey continued. I was supposed to go only for 4 days. I ended up staying for 10, simply because the need was major and language barrier needed me to be there. So this is an area in Mexico City. Now we're in the city. Before we were in the mountains, remote area, you know, very green. Here is the city. We get to this intersection, and I don't know why, but I told the car to stop, the Uber. I said, you know what, can we see what's going on here? And so I went there, and these young men, they were all volunteers, and what Imam Taha said, that the government didn't really come and help, that is true. So millions of dollars came, a lot of aid came from different countries and never reached the homes of the Mexicans after the earthquake. And so these were volunteers, and they came through from all over Mexico. Some were from Veracruz, from as far as Chiapas. So they were actually there because they were protecting a building that was about to fall, so they were not allowing anyone to come in. It got shooken, but it didn't fall, so nobody can go inside the red tape, and they were kind of guarding that. And they were volunteering there just for the security of their neighbors, the neighbors that lived there. They hadn't eaten in 2 days. So when I stopped, I said, you know, how can we help you? And he said, can you feed us? So I said, what do you want to eat? And he's like, whatever. I said, pizza? He's like, oh my God, pizza. We never eat pizza. Yes, pizza. I'm like, pizza's so cheap here. So subhanAllah, we got on the Uber. Some of us stayed behind. And that day we fed them pizza, and we went ahead and fed them some other days as well. These were actually also volunteers that were in Mexico City. Now this is, these two sisters, they're my friends in Mexico City. I've traveled many times to Mexico, given dawah, done a few tours there. And so I have acquired a lot of sisters, mashallah. And so also when I go and I have projects, alhamdulillah, they come and help. And so I told them I was coming with helping hand and I needed some hands, so they came along. So we ran into this gentleman. He was actually deaf, and he had a sign here that really like struck my heart, and it said, "I'm deaf. I don't need to speak in order to help. So anyone can help." So he was there picking up the rubble and helping, subhanAllah. I thought that was very touching. And so we moved this is to another state. This is, I can't pronounce it, oh my God. Oshokaldekepec. There we go. So this is Miss Josefina. She lost absolutely everything. She wouldn't let go of my hand, and she was crying the whole time. She's 87 years old. She was not going to work again to build her home. So alhamdulillah, Helping Hand was able to help reconstruct a small house for her and her husband. The second time around that they went, alhamdulillah. And I'll go real quick. She was explaining to me how she lost everything, and how she wasn't at home when the earthquake actually struck, so she was grateful for that. And that's what I saw in Mexico, that the gratitude, the level of gratitude just was beyond. It didn't really matter what they lost or where they were. They were actually very, very, very grateful to actually be alive. And this is the group. We were just so happy and relieved. This was another state that we had given some more food, and we were just like grateful to actually be able to do this. And again, very thankful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually chose us to go on this mission. Here's Brother Isam. And so this family here also got struck and lost everything. That's a mother of 8 kids, total of 10 with her husband. And we were able to actually build a small home for them as well. Where they live, the winter was around the corner. It gets as low as around in the 30s. So having babies and little kids, it was very crucial for us to act right away. And so we did by offering material as well. So during this mission, we were able to not only give food, blankets, tarps, and also reconstruct some of the homes for the families. And so the project we still have a long way to go. This is not even over, simply because the government unfortunately has not come to their aid. So it's up to us to help them, inshallah. And so here, there were the packages, and you see the blankets over there. And that's Brother Saul. Again, he was only going to be there for a few days, and he ended up staying the whole 10 days as well, mashallah. And so that driver over there, he was a driver. He was not Muslim, but mashallah, he was so on it and looking for bargains for us. And I had an experience of a driver one time when I went to Brazil for the World Cup. And so he was just this close to take Shahada. Our driver in Brazil, after 3 weeks of driving us around, he actually accepted Islam. So I think he just needs a little bit more. He was very fascinated to know that this was part of our deen, that actually it was our responsibility to help the human race, regardless of their background, their religion, or their language, where they came from. So he was very impressed with that whole notion. Here's another one of the other little kids. And so this was another town that we went to. This was also in the mountains. This was in the state of Morelos that got hit pretty well. These people live actually right on the skirt of the volcano, Popocatépetl. So they get it really bad. When the ashes come out, they also get that part. So it was actually not erupting, but it was very, it was a very scary time for them. In this town, the church, when the earthquake struck, was cracked in half, their church. And so they had a lot of questions. Again, we weren't there to give dawah, but when they asked, we did answer, and we saw the curiosity was just beyond. They were amazed that we were actually Mexican Muslims, and half of the time they didn't believe us. It was like, we are, I promise. And this is in the same town. This is Brother Parvez. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's from the Rosarito. He's the imam from the Rosarito community. He actually went as well. And that's Brother Noé. He's also a new Muslim in Mexico City. He came with us. And mashallah, he has an important role in the government, so he's trying to do his share as well. And then the other, well, you know, Brother Isam. And so here we were at another town. We were at another town here. These 5 kids were sleeping in one tent, but they were all happy and playing. And so I was recording, I was doing video live, and when they came, they were just talking to me, and they were so happy, and they were explaining to me that they were sleeping inside a tent and not outside, like their grandparents. So their street actually became, their home, because both sides of this street, the houses were shooken really, really bad. This was amazing, and I'm coming to an end. This was amazing. This family actually lost absolutely everything. But everybody, one thing that I saw in Mexico this time around, and this was the only time I've been back and I see my country this way, not only in pain, but also very united. So this family lost everything, but nevertheless, they actually went to make coffee, and every day they would go out, they would go buy cups and give everybody that was helping, the rescue people, any volunteers. They would go around, and this little boy is autistic, and he would go around and give you coffee. So everybody was playing their part, subhanAllah. It was truly amazing. And I'm going to come to an end with this story. This is like a truly fascinating story. So this is Professor Jaime. In this town was one of the most affected in Xochimilco, which is close to Mexico City, and the government didn't really go and assist there either. I came to Jaime. His dog and his wife were actually rescued from the rebel. He didn't think he was going to make it. He actually owned, or he was the founder of the only library and museum in the town. And when I came to him, I asked him, how can we help? And he said, you're here. You're already helping. That's enough. And that was his house. So it was completely gone. And he has documentaries and he has videos on YouTube of what it used to look like. One thing that he told us was, you know, if God gives me permission to rebuild this, I promise you that Islam will have its part here, and every single Mexican and anyone that visits this place will know about Islam because you guys were here. So with that, I just want you guys to know that you guys are really, really important. You're appreciated, and Helping Hand cannot do it without you. So Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.